one big factor is going to be the map that we compete upon. It's a best of one, so we'll see which map gets selected between these two teams. We saw a wide swath of maps being played by Cloud9 as they marched towards the finals in DreamHack Montreal. Mouse, I mean, we didn't get to see as much from them, largely just because they ended up going out in the quarters. But I would imagine there's going to be some map diversity between these two teams, and we can probably end up going to any match here. But Bank and Oregon, unavailable for these teams. If people have forgotten, maps that you played previously, you can't go back to them that next week.
And it's been a while.
It has been quite a while since that format was last seen.
But we're back here now, and it does carry over. So
Yes.
Coastline, the first ban there from Mouse. We'll get Consulate out of there from Cloud9. Of course, those changes being kind of important. I think they are going to put Consulate in a corner for a long period. Border also being removed from Mouse. And the last two are going to be Clubhouse and Villa. I mean, you got to imagine it's going to be Clubhouse, the slightly less new map. And yeah, there goes Villa. So Cloud9 getting rid of some of the newer stuff that's been added.
Which is surprising because Cloud9 played Villa at DreamHack Montreal. They were one of the first teams to play Villa in all of Pro League once Villa was introduced. So yeah, it's really interesting to see Cloud9 be the team to ban Villa, pushing us onto Clubhouse. But the good news is that Clubhouse has been a pretty successful map for Cloud9. That's the map that they won DreamHack Montreal on after being able to pull off a pretty remarkable comeback against Rogue.
Well, I imagine it's got to have something to do, of course, with also familiarity and them trying to keep things a little bit in their corner in terms of not being able to be VOD reviewed on and countered directly. But we'll see. Let's take a look at the community vote. Who do you think is going to win this match? Is it going to be a draw? Oh, that was perfect timing. Nice. 77% in Cloud9's favor, or 70, and 15% Mouse's favor. 8% of a draw. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not really too surprised there, especially with the fact that we just saw Cloud9 beat Mouse, number one, and number two, they're also coming in as the DreamHack champions. That championship right on its own, that plays a huge part. So both those things going in their favor. And Cloud9's also always been a very popular team. Even against opposition where it looks like on paper they probably shouldn't win, they'd be very close in the community vote a lot of weeks because the fans will usually vote alongside the teams that they also happen to like in hopes that they manage to pull it off.
If we're also just talking about popularity, I mean, even when Cloud9 was struggling in the beginning of the season, they still had a large following. And now that's even just, I mean, it's seen a build-up, like I said, a bit of a wave because they've been doing so well. Definitely, they do merit it.
Yep.
So we'll see how it plays out. But we will be going on to Clubhouse, which is going to be an interesting playing field, I think, for this match.
Yeah, absolutely. Clubhouse is going to be a lot of fun here. You know, it's C9 actually played Mouse on Clubhouse in DreamHack Montreal. They won 6-3. Of course, they won against Rogue 7-6, which were the only two times that we saw Cloud9 on Clubhouse there. So it is a bit of a surprise for Clubhouse because it's not usually a map that we see C9 play all that much, but keep in mind they played it against both SK as well as EG when they tied EG. And as I mentioned, I think like probably 15 times at DreamHack Montreal. It was also when Nyx pulled off the plant, was able to kill Schlongi in what should have been an easy round for Cloud9. It's pretty interesting, to say the least.
Maverick, the first band. This makes a lot of sense. The reason to me Clubhouse is going to be so interesting is because of the new operators. If I'm being honest, that's the thing that I'm taking away from this. I'm going, yeah, Maverick is going to completely destroy a lot of these sites, and some team has to ban him. He needs to not be there. And you see him go so early, makes a lot of sense there. Good ban from Cloud9. Mouse are going to ban out Lion and Maestro in response, leaving Clash still on the table, but Cloud9 could easily get rid of that.
It'll be fun to see if Cloud9's going to bother to take her out of the fray. And no, we'll go with Mira instead. One thing that was very apparent at DreamHack Montreal, which is the first and only major tournament that we've seen these teams play at with Clash and Maverick available, is that Lion is pretty much a must-ban for most teams at the moment. Which is funny because there was a period of time at the start of the season where Lion wasn't getting banned that much. It was usually always a Thermite or Hibana, and then another operator, usually a comfort pick. Maybe you take care of a Ying, maybe Glaz, maybe Blackbeard, etc. Maybe Lion, but most teams are just default banning Lion now. If you go back, he's banned in almost every single match that we saw on stream at DreamHack Montreal. It's not a surprise to see this continue, but what it's also done is that by forcing Maverick to be this ban, well, you're opening things up to allow Thermite and Hibana to be played every single round, which really gives a huge advantage to the attackers.
Yeah, we've talked about it before on Clubhouse. It is very much a hard destruction heavy map, so you're going to need a lot of that, and no matter what site you're going to, whether it's the basement attack, the top floor by Cash, the top floor by Master, or the ever-elusive bar, you do need hard destruction. So bringing both of them gives you a lot of flexibility in that department, a trait that we've seen a lot in Latin America, but now on this map in particular, prevalent pretty much everywhere.
So Cloud9 will be starting on defense here, and one thing that was noted on every single clubhouse, or most clubhouses rather, that we saw was that the defense tends to win more than they don't. So expect this, you've said many times, this is a very defensive map. It's very easy for defenders to be able to hunker down. That trend line was definitely something that we saw under this new patch, under these new changes that we've had to teams, especially with operators on defense. You know, getting changes, it's a bit surprising. Both Echo and Smoke getting small nerfs because of the SMG-11, as well as that Bearing 9 being much harder to control. So it's surprising to still see the defense be able to run it up all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But Smoke is still such a powerful operator in his own right. And the same thing for Echo. They're just essential because the role that they fulfill is, well, it's just that. It's essential. You need to be able to deny the plan indirectly. It's such a big part of this game, especially considering all of the disruption the attackers can now bring, because as you said earlier, Maverick is a forced ban, which means who's on the table right now? Well, 2 hard destructors, but also a glass. So the options are aplenty for both teams, and it's going to be interesting because of that. You have so many different ways that both teams can play out their operator selection, but all that said, we're finally into the match, and we've got the setup here from Cloud9, a 5-man anchor game. They're not even playing inside of blue. They have rotations, and it looks like they can easily spring into action there, but they're leaving it a little bit disjointed from the rest of the hold. You see the kitchen drop down being opened up, and a C4 wasted from Mark trying to get the Hibana vertical. Ooh, just barely seeing the leg there. Vandal is going to put some shots into the castle of Retro.
Retro happened to be an unfortunate early pick in a lot of encounters with Cloud9. It's important that he stays alive, especially with the way that they utilize him on both attack and defense.
I also noticed Retro had a couple other unfortunate hiccups at DreamHack. It was an interesting tournament for him.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he was able to somehow manage to evade Millennium when he was getting that diffuse off, and then turns around and
whoops.
Whoops. So. Anywho.
Claymores are hard, man.
Claymores are very difficult, especially when you're trying to waltz into piano. It's difficult sometimes for these teams. But being the Church right now being smoked off into Moto, you've got Vertical from above watching through that hatch to see if there's going to be any push. Mouse has pretty good coverage at the moment. They've got pressure on the hatches. Vandal inside of blue will use one smoke to try and look through that rotate hole, but both the Pulse and the Castle are just so close by. I think Vandal realizes that there's not much to do there, but for just a second there sees the skin of the operator around that deployable shield. Retro could possibly greet him, and there you have it. Retro will easily down the glass, goes for a second, but can't complete the duo. As Hyper is there to be able to finish him off. Laxing gets one, but England just sprints right in, takes out Fox, a beastly to Laxing. Goddess is there with that Bearing 9, and Mark getting one means that it's all up to England in a 2v1. And Goddess will finish it off. So much for that recoil change on that Bearing 9 as that action happens quite swiftly. And Cloud9 continues their winning ways by starting their first match here in the second half of Pro League off with a round victory.
Solid defense there, and Mouse just were unable to make that push go in their favor. They had a lot of great positioning, but it seemed like they were putting too much emphasis on blue, which is kind of weird. That's usually where you want to put your emphasis. That's where you want to take the attack. Go into blue, you give yourself so many crossfires. But once they had that control, they didn't make it work for them. And that is, well, it's a little bit unfortunate to see for Mouse. They're going to have to change that the next time they go into attack of the basement. But now we get to see Cloud9 make a rotation. They're going to go over to the bar? Am I reading that correctly? We might actually be seeing a bar defense. Pretty exciting. Really anticipating having this come out. Like I said, it's less defended than most of the sites. A lot of the reasoning there is, it's just the most changed from when they updated Clubhouse. And some people aren't necessarily ready to defend it. I don't know, the strategy takes a little bit of change. We have seen it before when they played against Rogue in the grand finals of DreamHack, but still a little bit new. And I'm glad that Cloud9's pushing this, so we can see, I mean, they did make it work for them, of course, so we'll see if other people start to adopt it as well.
They won the site against Evil Geniuses. They lost the site against SK. They won the site against Rogue. So 3 times we've seen Cloud9 go to the site. For some reason, they really enjoy it.
Good.
It also could just be that teams fear it because they don't play it. They don't play it because they fear it. You end up with teams playing it more often. They realize, well, this isn't actually as bad as we thought it was going to be.
Well, that's how all of the sites originally took form. The meta was defined by, hey, what can the attackers not attack because they're not used to back in the day? And you find yourself getting into a little bit of a groove, and then those deviations stop happening. But when the maps change, well, you got to change with them. And so good on Cloud9 making those changes. I wanted to say a little bit of a side note here. I like to see Retro. He was using an EG skin on his UMP in that last round, and that's a little bit of a dive back to when he played for Continuum.
That's correct. Now known as EG.
Now known as EG. So a little bit of respect being shown there, and that's something you can really appreciate.
One of the few players to win a tournament with 2 separate rosters, right? He won year 3, or season 3. It was year 1, season 3 to be exact, so just season 3. With Continuum, before being benched on the team, they picked up King George for the Invitational run, if I recall, and then they won that Invitational. Retro, unfortunately, was not able to be on that roster at the time, but now winning with Cloud9 too. I know it was noted in the interview that Laxing won with both Elevate as well as Cloud9, while Retro won with Continuum, and now Cloud9 too. So good to see him back.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you can see destruction on the Jacuzzi wall, but it's not as relevant as it would be if this were a master defense. So they changed for Cloud9, already working out strategically. However, in terms of frags, Beastly able to take out Foxay very early on, and that's the Echo. Vertical follows up with a kill onto Goddess. So a nice double here for Mouse. They're exerting a lot of pressure onto this Cloud9 defense, and they've got the vertical control now going in their favor as Hyper starts to drop into pool table.
Yeah, that's 2 quick picks. The Echo being downed right on site is just so unideal early on. Testing that new capability with the Reflex is going to be Retro with that SMG-11 out, but he just will not be able to hit his targets. Through the wall will be the Buck, able to spray him down before Mark is there to at least trade it off. England walks in with an easy kill onto Mark, and now Laxing from above will have to defend against 4 separate members of Mouse. It should be a pretty easy holdout. He doesn't even make it down the hatch as Hyper, the Ash, watching through that pool table window, and Mouse will equalize on a pretty quick attack. Getting those 2 picks early on essentially broke the back of Cloud9 and allowed them to just take so much map control away, walk in and get a plant down.
So that round, I think it looked like, to me at least, Mouse had everything in their control. They had picked apart the Cloud9 defense, and I think that might be because of DreamHack, because of those VODs, again, that you can review. You can see, oh, this is how C9 is choosing to hold the site. How do we attack it? Well, here are all their weaknesses. So a good job there for Mouse picking that site apart. They seem to have good control. They never seemed to lose their momentum. Got an easy defuse plant after dispatching the Echo, and it was just all downhill from there for Cloud9.
Yeah, I mean, that round was over just as soon as the fragging started for Mouse, right?
Yeah.
They got a couple kills, and then I think Cloud9 tried to rotate and just ended up getting caught real hard.
I have to really appreciate how Mouse did not linger on any one thing in particular. When they opened up the Jacuzzi wall, they left somebody there to watch that angle and rotation, but they didn't put too much focus on it. They also started their push into the gym, and they did have that control, but they didn't leave too much focus on it. They made everyone forced into their roles, and they got all of the control that they needed, and Cloud9 just couldn't find any footing.
No. I mean, that early pick onto Fox was not great, especially with one of the most pivotal operators that you need in the long run, that Echo there. He looked like he got killed at the bottom of the stage playing against that soft wall that leads into Kitchen. I don't exactly know. Could have been a pick through the soft wall in Garage, possibly. But it seems like it would have been a long angle no matter what. But.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was kind of just sitting in the middle of the bar, to be fair. Possibly on top of the bar. Either way, very exposed. So some bad positioning. That happens.
One of the target bans that we see a lot against Mouse is Ying, because we've seen Vandal be able to just blind everybody and run right in. It's not even necessarily the way that Vandal plays Ying in particular. It's just Ying as an operator has such a paralyzing playstyle that a lot of people have to deal with on defense. It's not particularly enjoyable, especially if Ying is a very big part of your execute, because usually you're able to pick up one or maybe even a pair of kills there. But the way that these bans worked out with C9 taking Maverick down, because that was an operator that Vertical was playing quite reliably, it allows Vandal to be able to play this operator. And I think that really helps Mouse's chances just by having that one operator in play for them.
So, Jacuzzi Wall opened up by the Thermite. Now, if I'm not mistaken, with the update, they also made it so you cannot impact trick Jacuzzi Wall anymore. So, that's a really easy and expected Thermite now after that change. There isn't really a lot the defenders can do about it, to be honest. Bandit tricking's not ideal, which means the Hibana's going to be able to open up into Bathroom. As Hyber gets a kill on the flanking Fox A, there is, again, a lead early on for Mouse.
Yeah, that's a big early pickoff on the Fox A. I mean, we saw it when he was on attack too, Fox A being that opening death a couple times, playing very aggressively and just keeping with it. You hear Candela's rattling off too, meaning that there's going to be some execute happening, and that's what I said. Vandal just moves in and Goddess is gone, and that's the Echo with still almost 90 seconds to go.
Yeah, so very aggressive push there, but really easy to pull off using those Candelas well. Hyper does get Mark as well. A very close kill there from Vandal onto Retro, leaving just Laxing. Yet again, he is going to get England from below. So good job there using the holes that were made prior, or possibly the marks even. He's going to start working his way up the stairs. Lots of information from his team. He cannot get the first kill, though, onto Vandal. He will go down, and mousesports take another extremely decisive attacking round.
And that was, I think, 3 kills for Vandal on that round in particular. Now, they did change Ying quite a while ago, and that LMG became a lot more powerful, packing a significant punch as its damage was increased by, I think it was 9 damage, if I recall, going from 34 to 43, which is not a small boost to that weapon.
Very large, yeah.
And for the second round in a row with Mouse, whether you're getting Vandal in there to just frag out as well as he was, you know, he walked in, hit a goo mine, but it didn't really matter because you had Goddess that was trying to keep herself from being flashed, take out the Echo, and then you've gotten control all the way around Master. It doesn't matter how well Vandal is going to play or not. The rest of the strat just all fell into place, and it was another round that once the attacking for Mouse started, they had complete control. And C9 crumpled. It's very similar to what we saw to C9 against Mocket, which is that once the roamers were down, C9 would just fall apart. And they fixed that as DreamHack Montreal went along, but it looks like we're back at that stage with Cloud9 right now as they lose 1 or 2 early and everything just completely falls to pieces.
I like this change here from C9, realizing that no, they cannot hold the Jacuzzi Wall. It's just not going to happen. They can put a mute jammer on it, but it'll almost certainly be destroyed with relative ease. But what they can do is they can put another jammer on the bathroom wall, and it's going to add an extra layer to Thatcher's work. So maybe it's possible Beastly will use too many EMPs to destroy the first one, and then the second wall will not be breachable. We'll see. I mean, it's totally up to the Beastly. An interesting change to Thatcher, actually, that we didn't touch on is that he no longer destroys cameras, which is a little bit crazy, but it is true. So a Valkyrie camera, default camera, even if I'm not mistaken, will just kind of buzz for 15 seconds or thereabouts and then be back in play.
Yeah. Need to pull out a tape measure there just to try and see exactly the range of those EMPs, because if he places that one properly, he might be able to get the second mute jammer all the way into bathroom.
Possibly.
Like I said, I need to pull out a measuring stick or a tape measure there just to try and understand exactly how far it needs to be, but right now, Beastly is committed to watching a possible flank watch through construction, so I don't know if they're going to be able to move his utility over to that Jacuzzi Wall.
You know what, if he throws it in through the drone hole, then yeah, he gets both mute jammers.
Very good point.
Pretty easily, actually, but it's his prerogative to do that.
Well, it doesn't matter. He might not have had to use an EMP there because it sounds like that Jacuzzi Wall had no problem whatsoever being opened up. That's going to allow Vertical to just stand there and hold a nice angle as an exothermic charge was used. The mute jammer still up in the bathroom or not is going to be a pretty good question as well, but it's also gone. So the assumption there would be that that EMP took them both out.
Yeah, that is a pretty safe assumption, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, to be sure. Vertical taking a little bit of fire there from Laxing, who ran out from the dirt tunnel. It's a really good way to put some extra pressure on the attackers coming from Jacuzzi Wall, so well done to him, but he wasn't able to secure a kill, which means Vertical will be reset on the roof. Looks like it's going to be flashbangs from England to get that done. And that's a full set of flashes. But to be fair, it's not the most amazingly useful utility, and I don't think it's that wasteful.
I mean, you're trading the ability to possibly burn Mark's ADSs of the Jaeger that might be able to prevent Vandal's Candelas from going off now.
True.
Right? And that's something to focus on too. Hyper is the first casualty as Mark just outguns the Ashe. He'll be out of action, but that takes probably the longest time that we've seen an entry kill go out. Candelas go off, and Vandal sprints all the way towards the stairs to see who's going to possibly try and aggress him. He'll catch the smoke looking, and there's a possibility for a trade there, and there you go. Laxing playing down in bar will find Vandal, and at least you've got one kill out of the Ying, but you've been able to silence her gun. Only 30 seconds, and this is an advantage in favor of C9 in a 4v3. It could go either way.
Significantly less aggressive push right now from Mouse. They're taking it a lot slower since they've lost Vandal on those main stairs. Vertical trying to keep that control using his own flashbangs. Not quite the Candelas, but they'll still do the work. Now, a big problem here for Mouse is they've got a lot of C4s underneath, and the information is clearly being called out right now as to the potential planters. You can see Fox going for a C4, but he's going to miss it. England might be able to get this plant with only 5 seconds left. Oh no, Beastly gets marked, and the plant goes down. 2 for Beastly, another for Vertical, leaving Laxing the last defender, and he's going to have to retake post plant onto 3 attackers. He gets Vertical, so it's a good start. He's got 2 more to find, comes around the corner. His position is given away, but he can make it through the crouch hole into bathroom. This might be a great rotation if he can catch the edge of Beastly's gun around the corner. Checking all the wrong angles, Beastly gets some shots off, but he loses the fight! England gets securing the final one, though. Mouse win it, though it was very close. Nice try from Cloud9. It seemed like they had it all going for them, but they missed all the counterplan.
The mark that came out was incorrect for that C4, as you mentioned. You also said they had a lot of C4 below. They did. They had both the pulse as well as the mute below. That's the ability to just stop a diffuse in its plant with that C4. However, you also had Laxing down there. The castle being down on the main floor with impacts.
Yeah, it was definitely a confusing round for C9, and it seemed like they had it all going in their favor. It seemed like, oh, 5 seconds left, 3 versus 4, no problem. C4 below, plant's not going down. But even after the C4 missed, then the defenders in the site were missing their shots onto the planter. And Beastly, in the nick of time, out of nowhere, 2 kills to shut down any potential direct counter to that planter. It was perfectly played from Mouse, but also it should have been a win for Cloud9.
Yeah, it was a perplexing round that really did not look like it was going whatsoever in Mouse's favor, but there was no pressure on the defuse. The only pressure that was on that defuse plant was below, and even though they found themselves in a 3v4, they lined 3 kills up as I think Cloud9 realized they had no control of the site whatsoever, and the only thing that was hinging upon their victory was that C4 being able to hit its target. When the call was made and England rotated, as you can do the basic math, realizing that, hey, there's a pulse and a mute missing. They probably both have C4s. I need to make sure that I evade at least one of them. They did so very, very well, and Laxing as the castle being downstairs possibly could have ended up being a big mistake for them because you don't really have any utility that the castle brings on the main floor that he wouldn't playing on the stairs or possibly putting pressure on anybody from Mouse as that diffuse is going down.
To be fair to him, he did do some damage, but it was too little, too late.
Yes.
I mean, the plant was already down. It was a very near clutch, though, from him in the end, just unable to secure that final kill. Either way, that round aside, we are right now in a bit of a pause. We have some technical difficulties. We'll be getting back in the match soon. But 3-1 in Mouse's favor. That's a decisive lead right just in the start of the match. Now, of course, we talked about this before the match even started. This is a defense-favored map, and
yes.
Cloud9 are not doing well on their defenses.
No Mira and no Maestro does obviously hurt the defense quite a lot. And
True.
Maverick and Lion does not necessarily mean that the attack are possibly crippled without those 2 operators. But as I noted, a lot of times that we saw Clubhouse go in favor of the defense, it was when one of Thermite or Hibana was being banned. You've noticed that Mouse has run a Thermite and a Hibana pretty much every single round right now. Why? Because it's so important to put possible pressure on a site. You use the X-Karos on hatches, maybe open up sight lines with it, then the extra thermic charge to give you entry that you need.
And Maverick was the one to see the ban. Now, one of the running theories after Maverick was announced, and then we started to get all the details, was that it's very likely in Pro League you're going to see a hard breacher banned in almost every single match. Now, there are maps that hard breachers aren't really that important, but it's still likely you're going to see one of them at least. Maverick, Hibana, or Thermite banned out. And Maverick being the one here for Clubhouse, I don't know if that's the best call. I would have, honestly, if it were me, I would be going for Hibana. I understand the stealth from those from the torch is really a pain to deal with, but I'm not sure. I mean, one of the worst sites I think that, or one of the sites that Maverick counters the most is, in my mind, Cache. Master's probably the second most, but Cache is up there at number 1. Basement the least so, because taking your torch to a drop down can be a bit of a pain, to be honest, and it leaves you very exposed. So, in my mind, Cache is the most hurt. But where have we not gone right now for Cloud9? Cache. That's the site they've chosen to forego. They've gone to the basement, the bar, and Master twice now, but they've not gone to Cache once. So, what's the point of the Maverick ban? Every other wall that they've tried to defend from a hard breacher, they've not been able to. So, I'm a little confused as to their logic behind the Maverick ban and their site selection following that up.
Yeah, the Maverick ban, I think, was just because Vertical was playing so much Maverick at DreamHack, but at the same time, like, I mean, maybe you just think he's a nuisance and you don't want to deal with him. Sure, okay, cool, but you start on defense, you ban Maverick. It's like you didn't really cripple the attackers at all.
Yep.
No matter what happens in round number 5, Mouse is going to walk away with a win on their attack of Clubhouse. That's not something that we usually see that much of at all. It's abnormal. So, well, I mean, we'll have to see what happens when Mouse goes to defense, but there's a very real possibility that this could already be a big enough lead for Mouse where they can just coast for the rest of the game and win a couple rounds and be able to walk away with it. But we're back into the game now as it is 3-1 in favor of Mouse. This will be their final attacking round. We'll see what Cloud9 is capable of doing on their final defense. It does appear they'll go down to the basement. So as you noted, no cache, no CCTV at all.
Interesting site selection from C9, to be sure, but basement is, of course, the site that they managed to win. So probably just looking to eke out another round on defense, end it. So yes, at a loss in the first half, but managing to take out 2 rounds, that's a salvage, if anything. Vandal's going to be bringing Galaz this time instead of the Ying. So a little bit of a change there. Last time we saw this happen, he was unable to make Galaz work for him. He was playing by blue, and as peeking, he really just didn't get any serious work done. So this could be a great choice, could be a terrible one. We'll have to wait and see. Now, I think if he can make that push work a little bit better in blue, then the crossfire that they were trying to establish on the very first round might actually come through, and then C9's defense might buckle. But who knows? Now, setup finally finishing out, and Cloud9, last time they were here, did a 5-man anchor. I totally anticipate that again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it should surprise anybody that this is one of the sites where 5 people on site tends to make the most sense, because your presence outside of the site just often leads to you dying early. That's the biggest issue, here. But I mean, once again, mousesports bringing these double hard breacher combo. So that will give them a ton of opportunity to put pressure wherever they need to see fit. You can have the Thermite possibly take out that dirt tunnel with Glaz to follow and push through dirt, probably unabated. Or you can use it on the church wall downstairs if you need to, as the Hibana will likely be done to take out all 4 or all 3 of those hatches on the main floor. That's going to be the big focus for Cloud9, is how they answer that, because we saw Mark do it at DreamHack, and then we also saw Mark do it just a couple rounds ago. He lobbed that C4 up through the open kitchen hatch, fishing for a kill, but his line came back and it was empty. But as I said that, England's going to use one of those exothermic charges to take out the hatch in stock, and now he'll push himself over towards the construction site where the dirt tunnel is, and those will be both exothermic charges used by Mouse.
Not too crippling, though, considering they've still got all the Hibana charges to open up the rest of the drop-downs, and then probably more if they want. The big thing here is now it's going to be kind of a struggle if they choose to try and push through the church wall. Potentially could have saved one more, but of course Cloud9 is setting up for the impact tricking above the church wall. try and counter that thermite as much as possible. They also have an unreinforced wall in Deep Arsenal, which means they can just shoot a thermite if he's planning.
It did look like they were actually carrying smokes on, or impact grenades on the smoke. That's exactly what they did, and they might have actually just saved the hatch with Foxay's toss from above to take out the X-Kairos rounds. That's exactly what they did. So that's some utility now that's been wasted by Mouse that's completely locked out. And there's another impact grenade from the smoke there. This could possibly be setting up an almost impossible scenario for Mouse to be able to make this execute happen without enough of the reinforcements opened up.
The beautiful thing about that is now that there's no thermite charges, it means since the church wall is inaccessible and they're about to do a blue into church pinch, it's a difficult push. But what is this? Cloud9 have nobody playing in A. This might be a huge oversight. They have the yokai drone in position to deny the plant, but that's not hard counter. It seems like they're setting up for a late retake, which is a hard thing to pull off. Hyper's going to get retro. Goddess responds quickly onto Vandal. So it's a back and forth. But a quick flurry of kills for C9, and Mouse are now in a bit of a corner as Laxton gets yet another, leaving Vertical the final attacker inside of Moto. He's got a tough task ahead, and he just cannot make it happen as Mark finishes him off. Cloud9 take their second defensive round on the same site as they did the first time around, which means we will be going into the second half with Mouse 3-2.
Yeah, that basically all hinged upon the hard destruction that was lost from Mouse.
Yeah.
You saw Vertical after he realized that you can't get that kitchen hatch open because of all the open holes around it, and that you're just going to likely have another impact grenade get tossed up from the smoke there, that they just needed to simply try to take a fight. You saw England and Vertical inside of Moto trying to muscle their way into church. As you noted, there was that yokai there. England got gunned down almost immediately, and then Hyper, who was playing in blue, managed to get that pick. He also walked right into the line of fire of Laxing. And I mean, at that point, part of the beauty of the basement of Clubhouse is that if the defenders can make it so that your gadgets don't open that site up at all, either above or on the same floor, it dramatically increases the likelihood of the defenders holding on. I mean, it applies to most sites, but I'd figure that the church downstairs, church and arsenal room, is usually going to be one of the best for any single site in terms of forcing attackers to go through small doorways and just get picked off.
Yeah, that's the real beauty of it, is because the thermite charges were expended, then once you can't get through the kitchen drop, now you're forced to push into the church. All the while, that's exactly what the defense was, trying to push you to do. So, well done to Cloud9 rather, kind of hurting their opponents right into the kill box. Now, we've got our very first cash room defense. We have not seen this from Cloud9, and Mouse are going to bring it. We also will have Clash being played for the first time this match, and I guess technically for the first time in Pro League.
That is correct. Because DreamHack is technically just an extension of professional play. It does not have any bearing whatsoever on Pro League. Interestingly enough, yeah, this is the first look we're going to see at Clash here. It's going to be Vandal rocking her.
Technically also for Maverick earlier, I suppose, but either way.
Well, Maverick's banned.
Oh yeah, when we see Maverick.
Right. Yes.
Pardon me.
Yes.
I should have clarified. But yes, we're seeing the typical counter the potential bandit that's playing on the B wall, and you can see Beastly's trying to counter the counter by using a C4. It's not going to work out for him. It's going to be exceptionally difficult for him to bandit trick that server wall. Because of that, Goddess is able to get the exothermic charge detonated and now has the control.
This is one thing that Cloud9 has done a number of times on this site, is that whenever there seems to be a big defensive hold in the top of garage on that catwalk, Cloud9 just ignores it, which a lot of teams will try to fight it. They'll use either their X-Kairos or they'll use one of the exothermic charges, open up one of the walls in garage that gives you a line of sight all the way up to that window on the catwalk, and try to flush out the defenders first and foremost. But Cloud9 doesn't really do that. They decide to put their investment in towards the wall that leads out to the balcony by server, and then also construction. It's a very interesting take that they do, largely in part because you've usually got the Blackbeard or Retro hanging out by the window of servers. And unless you can counter him quickly, which Rogue did a number of times, he basically makes it impossible for half of that site to get cut off. And there he is, exactly in the same window that you always see that Blackbeard or Retro playing.
A lot of control, as you said, and it also means you don't really need to take garage. It's not an essential function, and that's good because Mouse had a good garage hold. Impact tricking going on here on the small construction wall, countering the Hibana. Fox was using some of his flashes to try and, well, deny the impact tricking, but it didn't work out. He's going to have to use a second set of the Excaros, but I don't think that's too much of an expense for him.
And the biggest thing, too, to keep in mind is that they're currently Hyper and Vertical are both playing in Garage on that catwalk, which means as Hyper we see rotating, unsure where the lesion is going to be of Vertical, the big focus was that Mouse had two bodies that would have to go back onto the site through that window, and you're vulnerable when you go through the vault. Foxay is going to get lead-off kill here. It's going to come in the final 30 seconds, and he's going to rotate now with Retro still holding that angle on that soft wall into Garage. The Buck of Laxing is trying to figure out exactly where the Jaeger of Hyper is as he'll rotate through the closet downstairs. Retro stays static on this window, and there you go. Hyper is found. The Jaeger who is being hunted by Laxing will be there. Clash at the top of the stairs will need to be countered, but Mouse will add 3 to their list as they've locked it all out entirely. Mark last man left, and for the second time today, a round that Cloud9 looked like they were going to be walking away with ease is deftly handled by Mouse. Cloud9 so close to tying it up, but it will be Mouse adding to their already 1-round lead. Now 4-2.
That take was really poorly timed from Cloud9. I mean, last 30 seconds, and we started to see the take ramp up, but then suddenly it stopped, and then we're in the last 15 seconds, and okay, now Cloud9 are pushing, and then it stops again. Last 5 seconds, then they're pushing, but at this point, the push has been read, Mouse is prepared, and it's a slaughter. So a little bit of hesitation on Cloud9's part, really destroying their take. And now they're going to go on to an attack of Master after failing the cash room push. It seemed like everything else, again, you said it yourself, it seemed like everything else was going in their favor. I mean, they had worked out the impacts versus the Excaros. I think they may have used all 3 Excaros on that one wall. Either way, they got the hold that they needed. They were applying the pressure with their Blackbeard to cut off rotation from the Garage. Then, for some reason, we have someone outside of Garage. We have somebody pushing downstairs to hunt the Roamer. I mean, no, just you have the power, make the push happen. It was just a very confusing take from Cloud9. It looked like they were trying to fight for angles in a situation where they just needed to be brute forcing their way in.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind that Mouse did that with Hyper basically being a non-factor, as he was solely distracting Laxing by running across the entire map.
Yeah.
And then the Legion of Vert, if I recall correctly, playing on the catwalk, also not really jumping in until the push happened. So this was Mouse making a lot of good out of a situation that could have gone very bad. As you said, that impact tricking on that cache wall onto construction was the entire reason why C9's push failed to actually take place, because they couldn't get into the site.
All they could do was make a push from the doorway. They got the angle they wanted, but they didn't get the push. Now, Cloud9 are going to be attacking Master. It looks like they're doing a little bit more of an east take than what we've been seeing so far. I think that the Jacuzzi wall has become the default strategy for taking Master these days, but Cloud9 are going to come at it from a different angle. Interestingly, Mouse have set themselves up perfectly to counter that. Retro narrowly missing some shots there. He could potentially get a kill or two if he just keeps opening up these holes. There is some obstruction in his way, so he doesn't have great visual, but if he keeps hunting for it, he might be able to find somebody. It looks like they've caught on and they're going to be moving moving Hyper away, so good job there for Vandal catching his teammate. Either way, the push from Cloud9 right now is, again, very much different to what we're used to. Mouse set themselves up in cash room, but they quickly defaulted off of it, and that control now for Cloud9 is very good.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason why you want to focus on that cache push and push through construction is to try and waste as much gadgetry as possible. It looked like Retro might actually have been able to shoot the back of the Clash for a second there, but looked away. He'll now switch up and go to a different window. This Blackbeard outside is just such a hassle for a lot of teams to deal with. Saw Rogue countering it by the shotgun of Slash when he was playing Smoke, just trying to push the Blackbeard on every single window, but not something that we really see happening this time around. Mark is going to get slowed and shoot at the shield of the Clash, but hey, that doesn't really work out as well. Goddess, the one of 2 hard breachers and the primary hard breacher in the Thermite, is going to be dispatched by Vertical. And once again, we're looking like it's going to be another 30-second Cloud9 push.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of this. You know, when things change, when you got that new meta, you have to assess a lot faster. Beastly finally going to go down to Retro. Looks like he was a little bit exposed on the flank there as he was trying to hold the island in the middle of the site. Nice push here from Retro, able to down Clash. It's good control. Will secure Beastly as well, but he's got his pistol out. He's looking for another fight. He's not able to find it. He's going to need some bullets from his opponent and finally go down to Hyper, though. Mark gets England elsewhere. You can see 2 versus 3, but what's this? 10 seconds left. Laxing will at least start the diffuser plant, and it's being called out as well as marked. There's potentially a vertical denial here. Hyper will do just that. Vertical gets Foxay, and Mark, as he gets a kill, unable to pick up the diffuser and plant. A beautiful play between Laxing and whoever it was on cams making that mark to deny the plant in the last 8 seconds. Cloud9, you can't keep doing this to yourself.
Yeah, this is now 3 rounds in a row where Cloud9 have just thrown away the opportunity, and this would have been, if they had gone the other way around, we'd be looking at match point in favor of Cloud9. Instead, it's a 7th place Mouse looking to give C9 their first loss since picking up Mark in Pro League in week number 5, I believe. Technically it would be week number 6. Depending on when the match they played was. They could have picked him up in week 5, but would have been at the end, then maybe he played week 6.
It was a pretty decent chunk in.
It was 2 games. They played 2 games with them, and they won both of them. And it was, then they won DreamHack Montreal as well. Though with Mark, they got wiped out of the Paris Major qualifiers, if I recall correctly. So they got absolutely smoked. And then DreamHack Valencia also got smoked. So not like they've all been unbeatable.
No.
Since they picked him up. He's been a huge contributor to this team. And as you can see right now, these are not the full stats because there are 3 rounds of which stats will need to be added up by hand after the rehost that happened, or 4 rounds 1 through 4, because of the rehost. So those stats are not available, unfortunately. But at the same time, Mark's still getting 5 kills thus far since coming back. It's a pretty good tally to have, though a couple of them, as we would note, are impactless frags because they happen when he's last man standing far away from the site and unable to complete the defuse. Anywho, Mouse, so far 2 for 2 on defense. They'll look to go 3 for 3 on defense and put this one into the win column for a team that has a good map differential or a round differential, but just really has struggled to get a win, even though most of their games in the regular season have been quite close.
Yeah, they've definitely been on the precipice of starting their own wave, starting their own push, but it just hasn't happened yet. This could be the beginning of that. Going into the second half of the season, it's a good opportunity to start making a push for, if nothing else, top 4. And we'll see if they pull it off. I mean, they're just 1 round away from doing just that. 3 rounds now. Cloud9 will have to win in a row to get overtime. That's a daunting task.
A draw.
A draw, excuse me.
It has been so long since we played with draws, so I think that's permissible.
Yeah, forgive me for that mistake, but you're right. A draw. There is no overtime in the regular Pro League season. Best of ones as well. So as we come down to the last 2 minutes of this round, it seems like Cloud9 are setting up their push onto blue. Now they don't really have anything going for them right now, and this is really daunting because you're looking at a vertical on Ella. That's quite possibly the perfect operator to hold blue as a solo player.
You put the Kashmats on at least 2 of those 3 possible avenues. Now, as long as vertical is farther away from it, then he's not going to be affected by it. You're going to use some of the Zofia gadgetry from Mark. He pretty much exclusively plays Zofia on attack here, and you can see he's going to try to burn through that ADS, and he's going to win his fight. That's the 6th kill since coming back from the rehost for Mark. Vertical, that Ella, as you said, that's a good position for her to play. Well, she's not going to be there for that much longer. Mark will now go back onto drone to try and assist his teammate, as that's the Blackbeard pushing down. This could be really dangerous for the Jaeger of Hyper, as Cloud9 are looking to stay alive here. Retro's going to see one inside a dirt tunnel. That's England, but it's just them all tying it off. Hyper gets a kill before Mark picks up his 2nd, and the Zofia will retreat. Foxay down through the hatch will get 1, leaving just Vandal as Clash. Now, a shield operator in a 1vx situation is almost never desirable. He'll pull out that 2-burst SMG and be able to fell Mark, but there's still 3 more to go, and they know exactly where he is, and he'll have to work against the diffuser. Almost an impossible position for Mouse to be able to walk out of this. And there you go, Laxing as gets the final kill as they established a great crossfire. Laxing at the bottom of the main stairs. Look at that. 3 guns, all trained at the same area, but all holding separate angles. Cloud9 will win their 3rd and break Mouse's streak on defense.
So fighting for that draw, but they're still on match point. Still got 2 more to go. You saw there at the end, of course, Vandal not even bothering to check the bottom of main stairs. I mean, if there was somebody there, he was going to die. There's no way he's going to be able to push past that three-way crossfire as a shield operator. So not really that bothersome, and not going to be an easy clutch for him. So nice try. CCTV room cache. The next hold for Mouse. They'll be going back upstairs. This is, of course, the first site that they defended, and they were successful on it. So this could be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah. All right, CCTV cache. This Clash, as it rhymes with cash. Clash has been pulled out a lot. Now, from scrim reports that we've heard, is that Clash is very, very powerful when used correctly, but it's not always easy for a team to be able to do that. I think that Clash is in a position where she's very frustrating to play against for a lot of these teams, especially that slow. It has such a huge range that you can start to slow the attacker and just walk as quickly as them as you back up. And that makes it so it's very difficult for her most direct counter, which is to just melee her shield and then shoot her. It makes it so that you can't really do that because she can keep the same pace as you as she retreats.
Yeah, and also usually there's a teammate to cover the Clash. So if you're trying to get in close to a Clash while one of her teammates are shooting at you, well, it's not really a great situation. It's pretty much the polar opposite to Cav. Cav isn't great. You know, it's hard to get an interrogation because there's usually an attacker to kill you as you attempt to interrogate anyone you've downed. But over here, Clash is in the other department where, now it's usually someone for the defense in place to support that teammate. So a little bit of a switcheroo there, and yeah, she's been a very powerful operator from what I've heard as well. The same could be said for Maverick, though. I mean, not necessarily on every map. I wouldn't say Clubhouse is one of them as much as it's a hard destruction heavy map, but Maverick effectively makes all of the reinforced walls not safe. Where it used to be you would hold an angle, now you have to account for your reinforced walls as well and make sure you hold them, because you just can't hear when someone's blowtorching one of your walls. So these new operators have upset the meta quite a lot. We'll see those changes, I'm sure, come into place. Nice job there from Beastly, countering the wall being opened up from Goddess. A little bit of a hiccup from Cloud9. That's a really grave mistake.
Yeah, and that's one exothermic charge that's fallen by the wayside now, as Beastly, as you mentioned, did a good job of bandit tricking, and that was after that C9 expended so many of their gadgets to try and get that bandit off of the wall.
Some grenade damage done there to the Shield of Clash from Laxing. It looks like he also forced that bandit off the wall, but I'm not sure that the wall is going to be opened up anytime soon.
No, this could possibly be, as you said, a huge mistake for C9, as Beastly is still in a position to go for that bandit trick, but look at C9 will double up with both Retro and Laxing there, and Beastly might actually get this. No, Beastly won't get it, and goodbye.
Oh.
So long, doing his best super impression as Beastly blows up to the exothermic charge. At the same time, Retro, who was trying to cover Beastly, did so quite well, stopped Beastly from saving the wall, but died in the process. That leaves us with 1 minute left. Both teams currently at 4. Foxay inside of construction will now try to take that construction wall that will lead in towards Cash. There will be no bandit tricking there, so it'll be a pretty adequate sight line for the Habana or whomever of C9 to stand and try to catch a defender as they move past it.
He's got the flashes into the corner, expecting someone to be playing by the A-bomb. There is no one in that position. Flash is the nearest opponent, the doorway to the site, waiting to hold on as the push comes out. Finally, Fox is going to be able to open up the rotation hole through the construction wall, something they attempted to do last round, but were countered, or not last round, but the first round, but were countered by impacts. Now that control is established, they know that A site has to be clear, and they're going to have to deal with a retake strategy from Mouse, as they're just playing in B, waiting to push in whenever they need to. Fox has got the control, though, on top of one of the cache desks. The Thermite of Goddess gets a kill through the drone hole onto England. Impact's looking to counter the plant, or possibly no, just he's got his carbine out. But Hyper from the corner! What a drone, or what a rotation! Not being watched by Cloud9, and the plant doesn't go down. What is happening right now with Cloud9? That was a basic oversight. And Mouse will take the match.
That was Hyper getting them, as there was no coverage whatsoever to stop that diffuse. As you said, mousesports will win this one. That is not great for C9. Now, this is a number of rounds that they've thrown out when they really were in control. They were firmly in the driver's